Come, let us explore the meditation secret to unlock the circles of emptiness that is inferred in the 19th passage of the meditation classic, Great Garuda in Flights. Written oh so many centuries ago by the great Buddhist reformer Prahe Vajra. The teaching, the expanse. I think this would be better if it was more like enumerated or something, so I'm going to do that real quick. My best brainstorms actually during live stream. Isn't that weird? So let's go like this. The observation that is so weird. That doesn't seem to be... Oh, that was very exciting. Okay. Paste. Let's hit 4. Okay. The teaching, the expanse, the observation, and the appearance. Whoop. Or like scenes created by a magician. Scenes is probably not better, probably tableau. Oh, Google, tell me how to spell tableau. Okay, T-A-B-E, table A-U. That's how we'll do it. That's how we'll do it. Table A-U. Okay, all right, kids, we're having some fun now. The teaching, the expanse, the observation, and the appearance are like a tableau created by a magician. By obscuring the manifestation of pristine awareness, they lead to a further rebirth. Now, it is imperative that we do not take this literally, but figuratively. And the only way we'll understand what's going on here is if we have a rudimentary understanding of what emptiness is and how to experience it, no less benefit from it. Towards that end, I would very much like to redirect us to a set of visual aids. Now, both this teaching text and the visual aids are available for free download as PDFs, as a work in progress. So I'm going to tap button 9. I'm always delighted when I remember the tabs. I'm sorry, buttons. So there is a problem with humanity. That's right, just one. we are gifted by evolution with a mechanism to keep us alive. We call it our survival instincts. And basically, our survival instincts are triggered around our amygdala, the seat of that which causes us, or the seat of cowardice and crankiness and competition and cruelty, which is great if you're doing battle with a bear to protect 3 or 4 orphans. That's wonderful. That'll make you fierce. But if we are continually stuck in that frame of reference, if we're using our fear as a guiding light, not as a random emotion, but as a guiding light, then we're going to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. How common is that? Well, Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks. And sadly, that's pretty damn accurate, which means the majority, not only of people, but of meditation teachers, are so rigid and so superstitious and so controlling that they advise their students to actively focus and actively analyze. And the only way to do that is in reliance upon our dorsolateral and medial prefrontal cortex. And when we use the front of our brain in a way that it has not evolved to be used, when we overuse it, when we exhaust it, we begin presenting with symptoms of depression. We further trigger our amygdala, the seat, as I mentioned previously, of cowardice and crankiness and competitiveness and cruelty. And our life really doesn't work out well. Fortunately, neither the amygdala nor the prefrontal cortex constitute the entirety of our central nervous system. Phew, it's nice to have some good news, isn't it? Consider, if you will, the lowly spinal cord. Excuse me. I'm having some real health challenges right now. Consider the spinal cord. Every time we inhale, we have evolved to automatically access the middle bit of our spinal cord, which functions as the nexus of our sympathetic nervous system, which has evolved to help us to notice in a very special way, to help us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like, including the full spectrum of human emotions, intentions, cognitions, recollections, and imaginings. So rather than actively picking and choosing what to notice and what to repress, our job is to be vulnerable and passive and just notice whatever comes up. All manner of phenomena, from the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the glorious to the grotesque. Well, that seems scary as hell, doesn't it? That doesn't seem comfortable. What are we to do with all that stuff? Well, every time we exhale, we have evolved to automatically access the end bits of our spinal cord. This bit up top, this bit at the bottom, kind of like bookends on a shelf. After my bar mitzvah, as a little boy, I received a set of bookends describing my initials. So these end bits could be described as the locus or the nexus of our parasympathetic nervous system. They have evolved to help us to be physically to physically relax and mentally release to such a degree that that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, and less defining. But what has this to do? So let's find a hook to hang our hat on. That's what one of my teachers used to say. So here it is. The essence of mindfulness, which is simply noticing mind's antics, is to silently and mentally recite the verb watch each time we feel our chest swell with air. The essence of meditation, which is simply relaxing into mind's fleetingly non-graspable aspect, is to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb rest each time we feel our chest somewhat sink as we exhale. So now we understand the mechanics of meditation, mindfulness meditation. But what about this thing people describe as emptiness? How does that work? Well, it's a figure of speech. Follow me on this one. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel as non-graspable as a vast, empty void. You tell through the cunning use of prepositions that this is a simile, and a simile is only as effective as it is relatable. So we have to ask the question, what is a real-world example of a non-graspable vast empty void? Well, how about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although could feel as well, which although could look as tantalizing to the eye, feels rather non-graspable to the hand. So emptiness is just a metaphor to describe the natural, fleeting, physiological process latent within each exhalation. And we access that temporary phenomena by simply cooperating, by vulnerably and passively cooperating with the autonomic nervous system that is our spinal cord, or the spinal cord at the heart of our autonomic nervous system, if we want to be more picayune. What's the benefit of that? Glad you asked. Every moment we are faced with a choice. Do we passively cooperate with our autonomic nervous system, or do we actively fight it? Well, most of us are raised in cultures where being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel are considered pretty awesome. And that makes us pretty miserable. And after a while, we want to be our best selves. We want to be, a cross between our parent on their best day and our sibling on their best day. We want to be the person that our dog already thinks we are. And the great irony is that we don't have to go to a special place or receive a special blessing. We already evolved the mechanisms to be our best person effortlessly. All we have to do is cooperate. And when we do, life isn't automatically changed. Water's still wet, fire's still hot, winter's still cool, summer's still hot. Mean people are still mean, stupid people are still stupid, dishonest people are still dishonest, cruel people are still cruel. but we're able to cope with it. And when that happens, the whole process of experience feels less stressful, less permanent, less defining. We can be victimized without being a victim. We can feel cranky without being cranky. We can feel anxious without being defined by anxiety. And that is not picayune. That is freedom. Anyone can be happy when everything is just so. The test of our spiritual practice is, can we find a modicum of peace, a modicum of decency when the fit hits the shan. So now let's return to the teaching text. Oh, the number of buttons I must push. And so as we relax into our exhalation, whatever object or phenomena or individual we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel as if it was as non-graspable, as if it was as inconsequential as a tableau created by a stage magician intent on entertaining the denizens of a dinner theater. Or perhaps the Las Vegas Strip. And then not only does that happen, but as we relax into our exhalation, the very act of observation that occurred during our previous inhalation, that too could feel as non-graspable as a magic trick, as an illusion. And so here's the funny thing. As we relax into our exhalation, conventionally, whatever we noticed, whatever sight, sound, sensation, flavor, scent we noticed, whatever emotion, intention, thought, memory, or imagining we noticed, whatever dimension that can be noticed during our previous inhalation, that too can feel as non-graspable as a magic trick. No more real than the phenomena, than the illusion of sawing somebody in half. And then we can take it another step, and this is very fun. Ultimately, this thing called emptiness, that when taken literally, boggles the mind and becomes a stumbling stone that causes so many people to feel that this is all out of reach. And yet, as we relax into our exhalation, that same scary, incomprehensible thing, that too feels as non-graspable as a magic trick. So often, those who are elitist, those who are rigid, spin yarns and make the teacher seem so impressive and the teaching so impressive. And yet, as we relax into our exhalation, those two, the teacher and the teaching, also could feel as non-graspable as a magic trick. Remember, any weird individual who teaches meditation, their only job is to introduce us to the inner teacher, which is simply our own autonomic nervous system. Let's continue. Now, all these things, all these things that we could notice, and the very act of noticing even the idea of emptiness or the expanse. These things can harm us when we hold on to them with white-knuckle intensity. When we let go of them, even just fleetingly, during our exhalation, they no longer harm us. They no longer hinder us. One of my many late teachers quipped, "The Pure Land is now or never." Whether we prefer the Sanskrit term loka or the Pali word nirvana or nibbana, the idea is that there is no paradise. It's just here. It's just now, with all the glories, with all the grotesqueries, with all the kindnesses, with all the cruelties, with all the wisdom, with all the foolishness. Shakespeare wrote, "The mind can make a hell out of a heaven or a heaven out of a hell." We do this passively by cooperating with our autonomic nervous system. A tale is told, perhaps you've heard it before, of a man chased by a Bengal tiger right off a cliff. And as he tumbled down, fortunately, he caught his hand on a root sticking out of the cliff face. And he hung there, dangling from the root. He looked up and he saw the tiger reaching for him in vain, intent on tearing him to pieces. He looked down and he saw what appeared to be the tiger's mate, walking backward, pacing, stalking back and forth, waiting for him to fall into its lap, into its maw, to be eaten. Searching to his left in exasperation and defeat, he noticed a strawberry hanging there, seeming to have grown out of the side of the cliff. And he reached and he reached and he plucked that strawberry and he blew off the dust. And he popped that strawberry into his mouth. And he began to chew. And as the root began to snap, he thought, "This is the best strawberry I've ever eaten." In many ways, we are like that person. We find ourselves in the eye of a shitstorm with great, powerful forces of greed and of hate assailing us and our neighbors and our fellow denizens of our city and our continent and our planet. And we can feel overwhelmed by all this. And yet, by cooperating with our autonomic nervous system, not only do we get to savor enhanced peace, but the very process breathes life into the neural circuitry required for empathy. And so this very act of noticing and relaxing not only helps us to cope, it helps us to care. It helps us to be the people that our dogs already think we are. Having completed this evening's opening lesson, let us now shift gears. It is Qui-Gon Jinn Tuesday evening. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. After about 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is the Dzogchen Samde Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I have harnessed my autistic special interests as well as my ADHD hyperfocus to spend about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I could be your personal, nerdy, neurodivergent guide to nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to meditate like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. Oopsie, I guess that's the wrong button. Let's hit number 4. For the remainder of this evening's live stream, together let's sit and notice and relax. Let us silently and mentally recite the verb watch during each inhalation, and let us silently and mentally recite the verb rest during each exhalation. If you, like me, are prone to arthritis, I invite you to gently adjust your legs every 15 minutes or so. Excuse me. I'm having a tough time with some of my health challenges. I will be surprised if I'm able to sit for an additional 33 minutes. But I hope to. So let's jump right in. The path of noticing and relaxing is sometimes mocked as the path of the fool, the path of the idiot, the path of those too lazy for ritual or visualization. or invocation or internal alchemy. However, the greatest of Buddhist sages have insisted that this is the only path we need. And the Buddha, be he real or be he archetypical, taught, or is said to have taught, that when practicing simply noticing and relaxing, we can master the path in as little as 7 days. Now, some people, there's a old adage, just sit. Now, when people take that literally, they don't make any progress. Just sit only works as a metaphor, as a hyperbolic statement, whose inference is don't concentrate, notice. Don't actively concentrate, passively notice. Don't actively analyze, passively relax. Notice our body's tendencies to notice and relax and cooperate with them. It's just that simple. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist philosophy or meditation, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, for I tend to check for questions about every 5 minutes or so. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist about Buddhist philosophy or meditation, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, for I tend to check for questions about every 5 minutes or so. The moment you have a specific question about a meditation or philosophy, simply type it in the chat window, for I check for questions about every 5 minutes or so. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 hours, I would very much like to return to tomorrow's morning meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.